Our tendency for change, actually erase that, our tendency for improvement. Hi, I'm Joseph Roevens, a professor of organizational behavior at Breda University in the Netherlands, and I've been working on change management for probably about 20-25 years. And one thing that I've noticed is that people very frequently use the word change when they actually mean either an update or just a new thing. I mean, if you change your washing product, you add the word new to it, that doesn't mean a fundamental change. It's just a few bits you've done differently and you hope to then sell that as a novelty. Now, the good news is that we humans actually do have a tendency towards improvement. We get rather bored with change. We get rather bored with updates or even stressed by it. But we do have a natural tendency for improvement. And in this short clip, I would like to discuss this with you and go over a few essential sources. So again, question, where does our tendency for change, our tendency for improvement come from? And for that, here's actually a short picture of my 3-year-old daughter and I, so you can definitely see there's already some improvement there. Anyway, so why this tendency? Well, the first one I would like to argue is that actually to live is to learn. It's an essential capacity of a human being to be able to learn, to also experience the fact of being alive. Secondly, I'll do my best German, Auf der Suche nach einer besseren Welt. This is actually based on several discussions between Konrad Lorenz and Karl Popper. Konrad Lorenz, the famous biologist, ornithologist, and Karl Popper, the famous philosopher of science. And these two gentlemen, at sort of the end of their lives, they were already in their 80s, were discussing what we do as humans, and one thing they noticed is that we are continuously in a search for improvement, just like other beings on this planet. I'll briefly say a few things about evolution theory, a little bit based on Darwin, and then finally also a French source from historian and actually mastermind Jacques Attali. Here's briefly in French and in German the dialogues that those two gentlemen were holding, and based on their thoughts, Robin Rowley and I actually created a change model back in 1997. So that's, 20 years ago, and I'm quite mesmerized to notice nowadays when I hear organizations talking about dealing with uncertainty, dealing with agility, being flat, being flexible. Well, that's sort of what we predicted or worked on already 20 years ago. And this is a model that embeds uncertainty when you deal with change. Now in this video, I will only briefly go over the model, but if you're interested, you can always leave a message or contact me, and also download our book, Organize with Chaos. Now, briefly, what does this model say? Well, on the one hand, you have the known, so everything you know, also things you can plan, and on the other hand, you have uncertainty, things that just happen. Simple example, I come towards the studio today to get this film made, and I can plan certain things. I can make sure I drive my car and I calculate how much time it should take, and I can probably assume that the people in the studio will be available. So those are all assumptions. But then reality happens. And reality could be that I get stuck in traffic, which means I arrive here later, or that maybe some equipment doesn't work. And the point is, how do I then deal with that situation? Now this is a micro example, a very small example, of my case, but you can imagine that within organizations, when you deal with everyday business, you always have the planned on this side and then reality, the unexpected, on the other side, and how you deal with that. And in our model, we sort of describe different phases in change and how this then go to a better model. Now, let me take a brief example from nature. And for those who are experts, forgive me, I'm a social scientist. I may make certain claims that are not 100% true. But if we look at evolution theory, then this fig tree, this Australian fig tree, did not look like this several thousand years ago. Because under those weather conditions, it's very possible that the leaves were smaller, that the roots didn't go that deep. Anyways, it was a different fig tree. Now what happens? An original fig tree is there and suddenly climate changes. There's more sunshine. What does the fig tree then do? Well, he or she then tries out new things, tries out experiments, like, well, what would happen if I shoot a branch to the left? What would happen if my roots go deeper? What would happen if I get more leaves? So I'm not saying that the tree actually thinks these things. I don't know, I'm not an expert. But one thing is for sure, the tree tries different things. And some of these things do not work. I mean, if you have more branches or you have more leaves, they will actually maybe not be able to absorb enough sunlight, or may not be able to have enough water, so they will not grow. So certain things just don't work, but other things do. For example, having roots that go more deeply into the ground could actually make the tree find water, find nutrients. So that would probably be a successful experiment. And as the tree experiments to survive, things work, things don't work. And what Charles Darwin has shown with evolution theory is that those things that work, well, they reproduce, they create offspring, they create little fig trees who themselves then also grow and, turn out in a new shape that perfectly fits the conditions it is in. But the interesting thing is, and that's what we sometimes forget from evolution theory, is that even when circumstances are the same, when circumstances don't change, different elements of nature will continuously look for an improvement. And this can happen at the macrogenetic microscopical level. This happens with trees, this happens with animals, and this definitely also happens with humans. So even under idealized conditions, we're looking for something new. We don't always need, for a new improvement, not just new, a new improvement. We don't just need circumstances to push us in that direction. And this often requires guts. I mean, when you try something new, again, it can fail. Well, and the failures can sometimes also be rather harmful. But if you don't try, no improvement happens.